So I just grabbed a couple packages off the porch, and they're exciting for very different reasons. One of these is a surprise for the kids from KiwiCo because they're the sponsor of today's video. And the other is a really special thing that I've been working on for a while. And it's going to fix something in the school that has been mildly unsafe. But before I rip into these boxes, let me explain a bit.
See, when you take a 100-year-old building and try to convert it into your home, there are always going to be issues that need to be fixed. And we've had our fair share of fixing things over the last few years. Like, it used to rain inside the school when we bought it.
Over here, we've got the leakiest room of all, which of course is a little depressing right now, but once we get the roof on, this will stop raining inside.
But we fixed that. And then there's some holes in the floor. And some things are growing in the walls. But 4 years later, the schoolhouse looks a lot more like this on the inside. Now, while things do look a lot more done, we have a long way to go. And in this video, I'm going to share 2 recent fixes we've done to fix a couple of the lightly dangerous issues that have been hanging over my head in our little schoolhouse. First up,
today we are going to be filling in this dangerous hole to nowhere.
fixing this hole to nowhere was the first step in actually decorating our bedroom, which has been kind of ignored and a little hodgepodge as we focused on more pressing things. Design-wise, this room has definitely stumped me, and every time I've shown it in videos, I've only shown the good angles. And now I'm kicking myself a bit for not taking more pictures of how it's really felt. But I think I've got some ideas now. To start, in this corner, we are going to build a cozy little book nook, beginning with the hole to nowhere. So when we bought the school, this area was a little confusing. So let me explain. This is a view of what the hole to nowhere looked like after we were cleaning out the school and doing a bit of demo. Right here, this built-in bookcase is our current door that goes from our classroom bedroom into what's now our study. And this is now the door to nowhere. It used to be a door to a closet, I think. We switched the 2 openings because this room that is now our study, it used to be a pale room where the kids used to store their lunches and coats and the like, but it was really skinny. So we took out the stairwell that used to be going down into the basement right here, and we put the stairs in a different spot over by the kitchen. And then we made this room wider by making a floor here. So here's some of the progress. So here's what this area has been looking like for the last year or so since we moved in. We put a baby gate in front of the hole to nowhere so that the kids wouldn't go toddling off of a ledge. But obviously, it's not cute.
The kids are pretty good when it comes to safety warnings, but it was time to get this little dangerous section buttoned up because one, just for peace of mind, and we've got some guests coming in September, so it'll be really nice to have this room turned into a guest room, have a little bit of privacy instead of having a gaping hole into our bedroom.
So our plan is to frame the hall out, build some bookshelves in here, and then back the bookshelf with some salvaged vintage glass to keep the sunlight flowing from both sides, kicking off the whole book nook corner.
But before I get into the drama of the actual building of the shelf with some surprise salvage materials, let me get into one of the boxes that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the one from KiwiCo.
Gosh, this is so cute! KiwiCo delivers hands-on projects to your door every month that encourage kids to get outside and play. There are multiple subscription lines to choose from science and engineering to art and geography, where kids get to learn STEM concepts while actually doing stuff. What's Poppy's temperature?
50 cents.
As kids progress through each crate, they develop critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and creativity while having a lot of fun.
Oh, Marco, your kit is designed around independence.
And I love these grown-up guides with tons of age-specific ideas for play and behavior.
To take little Poppy on an adventure. Do you want to take Poppy to the fair?
Look, he's doing it.
I am so impressed by the quality and adorableness of everything that comes from KiwiCo. Watch out, friends and family, because this is my new go-to kid gift.
If you want your kids to experience the magic of KiwiCo, click the link in my description or use code Schoolhouse for 50% off your first monthly crate. The code Schoolhouse also works for 20% off Panda Crate if you're looking for smaller gremlins like Margot.
Stay at the hospital, Poppy. Oh, your Poppy's heart are beating bad.
Okay, back to dangerous schoolhouse problem number 1. The hole to nowhere. We've been debating on how to solve this architectural feature for a while, and at one point we even bought a really nice piece of plywood to be our bookshelf backer, but I couldn't bring myself to block the light that streams in from both rooms. So what do you do when you need some old glass with character and a good story?
Can you go in, Margot?
Go down to Madison Street Salvage, aka my favorite spot in Franklin, where I go to solve a lot of the tricky schoolhouse problems. And if you've been watching my videos for a while, you already know that I could give a TED Talk about this place. They've got salvaged treasures from old buildings, donated furniture, vinyl records, charming oddities, and all the proceeds go towards restoring Franklin's still functioning historic movie theater, plus other preservation projects in the area. And I grew up here, and it's been wild to watch how, over the last decade, a small army of history-loving humans have helped bring old Franklin back to life. The boutiques, the cafes, the bookshop with wildly ambitious author events, seasonal festivals. It's a little like Stars Hollow, but real, and with more antique doorknobs. And it turned out Madison Street had perfect, enormous pieces of vintage glass in these big windows. It's technically called Florentine glass, but I call it catbutt glass. Christine and Greg helped me get the glass out, but I was a little nervous about cutting the glass. But then Dennis and Scott generously offered to give me a lesson. And it turns out Scott is a bit of a glass cutting expert after working in his parents' hardware store growing up.
This is a lesson for you. I'm just going to do this. Okay? Circle, right?
Yeah.
Nothing to it. But if we want to do this, it's okay to tap it all the way around, but the way I was taught, from here...
Oh, you do it like pieces.
Make
Like
Make it a starburst.
How old were you when you...
Oh, jeez, I don't know. I couldn't reach the table. This hardware store business. That's the way they did it. Did you change your own diaper? Now, turn it over. And you already know this part. See it go? Watch it run.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Nothing to it.
All right, so clean is the advice.
Oh, clean, absolutely. Have you cut glass at all?
Yeah, but little
So
pieces.
you know, your cutter's just got a little tiny wheel.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, if you run into too much stuff, even though it's a steel wheel, it dulls it. And then
Maybe
you
that's my problem, because I used my dad's old.
throw it away. Go buy a new one, they're cheap.
To the table.
Yep.
And to keep from cracking your glass, we put a shim underneath this, a spacer. You clamp that down.
You ready
Yeah, I'm ready.
to cook the bacon? Does she know about bacon yet?
No, I didn't tell her about that. I refer to that sound as you go across there as cooking bacon. If you can make that, as you're cutting it, sound like bacon, that's the ideal speed and pressure.
All right.
There it is.
Dang.
Woo.
That was a good one.
Straight as an arrow, look at that. Nice job.
Just the biggest thanks to Scott and Dennis for the lessons and the stories. I hope you can see why this is the best place in town. And so, with the perfect pieces of glass in hand, some new knowledge and confidence for future Schoolhouse glass projects, it was time to head back to the schoolhouse to get to work on the hull. So the first thing we needed to do was prep the hull. And this being our first finished piece of carpentry work in the schoolhouse, we were a little nervous, but I'll let you judge the end product at the end of this. Also, this lintel that Sean is prepping here, one time early in the schoolhouse construction, I literally saw a bird fly out of one of these holes right at me. So this spot, we've seen some things. And we had some very rough plans to go off of. Basically, we had the glass pieces cut to size, and then we were just gonna figure it out as we go. The thing about this school is that nothing is level, and the brick can play some optical illusions on you. So you basically have to wing it on some things to make it look right, even if it isn't perfectly level. So we got started framing the shelf in the hull. All right, now I'm gonna do some wood filling and some staining, so time to put on the old lab coat. Okay, the only way I'll sand inside is using the Festool, which has a vacuum attached to it. So feel comfortable sanding and not getting dust everywhere.
I'll do a little lower. So that's going to go here, and then I'll put this bigger piece of wood behind it. That's going to be hard.
It's coming together. So after we got the structure of the bookshelf built and stained in place, it was time to figure out how we were going to trim this all out and get everything lacquered. Now, of course, it would have been easier stain and lacquer-wise to get all of this done in the garage or the basement, but with the wonkiness of the wall, it wasn't really an option, so we had to build it in place. But for the trim, that we did separate from the brick.
Don't like that noise.
And for the little trim pieces on the bottom, we actually had a little bit of trim left from our kitchen island, so this section was a pretty great use of some scrap. And then it was time for the most nerve-wracking step of all, placing the glass in its final home. We caulked the edges so that the glass would have something to keep it from jiggling, but that might have been overkill since the bookshelf is stationary.
Job. Perfect.
So to go on the shelf, I have this old lamp that I made right after college. It has this shade made of old slides. This cord isn't long enough, so I'm gonna go through my collection of cords and find one that'll work. Fill in all of the teeny tiny holes with these markers. And this is what our hole to nowhere, aka beginnings of our book nook, is looking like now.
Okay, moving on to our second package. This is going to help us fix some other dangerous holes in the schoolhouse.
2 summers ago, when I moved back home from the East Coast, I got to work on refinishing all the original doors and hardware in the schoolhouse, stripping the old paint, stripping the old varnish, and restoring all the hardware. I even rebrassed a ton of pieces, and it was surprisingly easy. But the problem was, some of the hardware was missing. Hinges were easy enough to replace, but these spring covers that went on our swinging doors, not so much.
I've been a bit paranoid on the kids getting fingers stuck in a spring, and they're, like I mentioned earlier, they're very good at honoring the house rules of do not play with doors or you will lose dessert privileges for the rest of your life. But I will sleep a lot better knowing that these are covered up and protected from small fingers.
And the story of how I got these made, it's a super interesting company called Send Cut Send. They make custom sheet metal parts, but The issue is I don't know how to use CAD. I haven't used it since 7th grade in technology class. So they do have these sketch to CAD guidelines where you can make a sketch, put all the dimensions on it, and then send it to them and they will make a CAD file for you. And now just as a disclaimer, I did get a gift card to try out SendCutSend, but this is not sponsored. So I got to work on mapping out all the measurements and curves for this piece. I literally haven't done so much geometry and fraction conversion math since I was like, I don't know, 17. So pay attention in math class, kids. You never know when you'll need to calculate a radius on a brass safety cover. Okay, this is very hard for me, but I did it. So now I'm going to upload and send. For a small fee, SendCutSend converted my pencil drawings into a CAD file, and I was able to order my pieces in solid brass. Now, I also had these closet doors in the kids' rooms that were driving me nuts figuring out how to cover all these holes.
Like, literally, these doors are like Swiss cheese. I do love them. They came from an old office building in Detroit, and they were originally used for bathrooms, as you can see here. And I originally had the idea of using these like little brass covers that are meant for dressers. And I tried using some little wood pieces that I cut on the laser cutter, but as you can see, they're already kind of breaking.
And then I had the idea of making some brass plates for these doors and putting our little custom doorknobs on top.
Now they're here. Here we have the plates and we have the spring guards.
So let's get installing these pieces. All in all, very pleased with all of the fixes for the dangerous things in the schoolhouse. Now that we've been living here, I genuinely do enjoy the creative problem solving for things like this and all the learning that comes with it, even if I do have to break out some geometry. Up next for the schoolhouse, we've got big plans continuing on the little book nook work and some cozy ideas for our bedroom, and I've been really getting into making lamps. You saw my camera lamp that I referenced earlier, but I also just made a nightlight for my son out of a school bus stop sign, and I'm really excited to use some of these old schoolhouse globes that I found recently at an antique shop. As always, thanks a ton for the suggestions, the advice, and coming along with us on this weird house journey of converting an old school into our home. We've still got a lot of homework to do.